Chalo, let's. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the new talk on diabetes. Today, we are going to unravel all the myths about diabetes, particularly, people talking about reversal of diabetes and, they can control X, Y, Z connected to diabetes. And, India is diabetic capital of the world. Globe is facing diabetes problem. So today, we are going to focus exclusively on this very important aspect, diabetes. So let's talk about it. Over to you, Sushant. How do you want to lead it today?
Yeah.
I'm sure
Good
audience
morning.
about
Good
this.
morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. So, we'll start. Before I get into some scientific things, before I want to introduce a concept to everyone, and so that people should be able to grasp that. I will try to be as layman as possible in layman language, right? So essentially, first fact is we have to remember that pre-diabetes stage or diabetes is the last stage of metabolic syndrome, is the last stage of metabolic disease, right?
Hmm.
So we start developing this 15 years or 20 years back, right? And how it happens is so again, we all know that 70% of immune cells is around our gut lining, right? And a gut microbiome has a role to play in onset and progression of type 2 diabetes, right?
Right.
So the interaction between the nutrition, the food we eat, right, in terms of various molecules, chemicals are there in the food, and the gut microbiome creates a situation where it creates an imbalance in the gut, what we call as gut dysbiosis, and uh, you know uh, it first leads to spike in the fasting insulin level, right? Then it spikes the fasting glucose, and then finally HbA1c. So mostly when we track HbA1c levels or we have diets based on HbA1c level, it is never equal to reversal of diabetes. Or if we are tracking CGM, glucose levels or glucometers, right? It is again never equal to reversal of diabetes. So all these companies doing, diabetes reversal program is bullshit, crap, fraud, right? So I'll tell you why I'm sorry using these terms, because this is what I've been hearing every second day. Every second day we're seeing ads on Facebook, LinkedIn, that claiming, diabetes reversal program at lesser cost than, what they spend on their test. There are a lot of these claims. So let us go back and understand. So essentially diabetes or any chronic disease you know, is an outcome of low grade chronic inflammation, systemic inflammation, right? And how it happens is it's an immune system activation, right? The inflammation is nothing but the overactive immune response, right? And how it happens is, again, as we mentioned, 70% immune cells is around gut lining. Since we are born, our microbiome trains our immune system to differentiate between friend and foe, right? So, whenever there is molecule, so essentially it's both, right? It's infectious microbes or infectious bacteria or infectious fungus and viruses, like happened in COVID, or it can be molecules which are non-infectious, probably molecules which are released by our microbiome when they are interacting with the molecules in the food we eat. So this tells an immune system that something is bad going on, and immune system does the biochemical responses. So for everyone, unlike humans, right, immune cells or our cells does not have eyes and ears. They
Correct.
sense biochemical signals, right?
They
So
sense
it's about
proteins. They
yeah,
sense proteins, three-dimensional structure of the protein, the
yeah,
receptors, and
yeah,
protein interactions.
yeah. So these biochemical responses can be immune response, can be blood clotting response, can be inflammatory response, right?
Right.
So immune cells gets into act and does that. But the question arises, how does they respond, right? So everyone has a different inflammation symptoms. Someone has, high blood sugar level, someone has frequent urination, someone has headache, someone has migraine, someone has joint pain, back pain, there are a number of things, right? So how do we make sure that, immune system responds accurately, right? And that is where a concept of sensors and receptors come into picture, right?
Correct.
So when I talk of sensors, right? So this is what we call as inflammasomes. Inflammasome is an adaptive immune system receptor or a sensor, right? So it generally, generally activates in response to. Sir, you're there? Can't hear you. Can't see you. Yeah, there was some disconnection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about inflammation. Inflammation is that innate adapt immune system receptor, right? So it actually plays a key role in telling how the immune system has to react. So right, it activates. So how it is activated is, it's basically the reactive ROS reactive oxidative species or mitochondrial dysfunction. A lot of these things actually activates these inflammasomes, and this inflammasomes actually further activates enzymes which lead to production of various pro-inflammatory cytokines, right? Right.
So are you displaying something on the screen?
Yeah, I'm just displaying it. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was a nice slide.
Yeah. So if you see, this is how, so again, the inflammasomes tells immune system sends via sending an inflammatory marker, there is a threat signal, right? And immune system start doing. So what kind of attack immune system has to do, immune cell has to do, is actually communicated by the inflammatory marker released by the inflammasomes through release of certain enzymes, right? So that's a basic thing, right? So again, type 2 diabetes is the starting point, is obviously the trigger point by inflammasomes, and right. As I've shared here, that TNF alpha and other pro-inflammatory molecules is linked to the decreased insulin signaling and obesity, right? So it's an overexpression of adipose tissue expression, right? Which so this again, TNF alpha leads to obesity. Unlike a lot of we just end up suppressing our weight by having low calorie deficient diets, right? So it's only suppressor of symptoms, right? Suppressing your weight, suppressing your blood sugar level, suppressing your symptoms, right? Similarly, now let's talk about type 2 diabetes. So again, the certain cytokines like IL-1 beta and IL-18, right? It is actually linked to reduced insulin secretion, reduced insulin signaling, dysregulation insulin pathways, signaling pathways, which actually is also linked to a lot of other diseases like arthritis and autoimmune disorders, right? So these IL-1 beta and IL-18 is one of the pro-inflammatory molecules which triggers type 2 diabetes. Okay. Right. And again, so there's specific inflammasome which is NLRP3, right? Which is of non-infectious origin. So it means that it responds to the molecule released by your microbiome, right? And this is this inflammasome which secretes these cytokines, right? Which is again an indication of the pro-inflammatory molecules, right? This is what we call as pre-symptomatic pro-inflammatory molecules. So immune cells acts on that, and then we start having symptoms. So so if you see this slide here, so in pancreas, this inflammasome reduces insulin secretion, reduces beta cell mass, increases beta cell apoptosis, right? In adipose tissue, increases inflammation, reduces insulin sensitivity. In circulation, reduces insulin, reduces glucose. Increase glucose, increase HbA1c, increase inflammation, right? Right. So again, we need to understand, just by suppressing your HbA1c levels because of going to a blood test, and I have a high HbA1c, maybe 6.2, 6.5, 7, 7.5, whatever it is, right? I want to reduce it, so I'm suppressing the blood sugar level. I'm suppressing my blood sugar, high escalation blood sugar. Similarly for CGMs, right? Continuous glucose monitoring machines, right? Here are 3 issues in case of CGM, right? So CGM is nothing but tracking your blood glucose level. So first thing, if your blood glucose levels are high, right, it means you have a low insulin sensitivity, because if you have a regulated insulin response, right, your body releases, your pancreas releases insulin at the right quantity so that it doesn't spike your blood sugar level. It regulates the entire, metabolic homeostasis inside the body, right?
Correct.
So first thing is, when you are tracking your blood sugar spike through CGM, you're suppressing it. You're
Correct.
not suppressing the insulin level, right? So it
Right.
is never equal to reversal of diabetes, right? You're suppressing blood sugar levels. You may drop certain metformin, certain medicines, but it doesn't mean you have reversed diabetes, right? That's a wrong motion. First thing. Second thing, when you are suppressing blood sugar level as coming in CGM through high protein diets or through some yo-yo diets, some generic interventions, right? You are not stopping the blood sugar level. You are actually slowing down the blood sugar level spike. Right? When now you are doing that, so it means that you are actually putting a lot of pressure on your beta cells, right?
Right.
So essentially, you are actually making beta cell overwork, and again, that would increase the chance of insulin resistance if you don't have one, right? Third fact, right? So when I am your glucometer or CGM nothing but glucometer, right? So essentially what your CGM would track the blood sugar spike in response to one particular food, not meal. So
Right.
you doesn't say I will eat rice first, then I will have rajma, then I will have eggs, then I will have almonds, then I will have some vegetable, some pumpkin. It doesn't work like that, right? So, so essentially, these are the three basic flaws in CGM, right? So if you are buying CGM machines to track your blood sugar level, it is not going to help. It's all waste of money and time and effort, right? You're not going to reverse diabetes. That's a wrong claim, right? So going to the first point, right? The first step is insulin spike. So we have to stop the fasting insulin from spiking. We have to regulate our insulin response, right? By understanding what foods we should eat and in what combination of food, what quantity of foods, right? It's a very complex thing. It is not easy that you let us give me a protein diet and suppress your blood sugar level. So for instance, potato may spike blood sugar level in me, may not spike in you, right? But potato, when you combine with some other foods, for instance, almonds, right? It may spike because people don't understand that almonds can also spike your blood sugar level. It isn't, almonds actually is high in oxalate. So if you have low oxalate metabolism, probably, and your LPS is really, really medium, right? So it can lead to spike in blood sugar level. So there are multiple interaction happening. A food may not spike, but a food in combination with other foods may spike your insulin levels, right? So, so essentially the focus has to be on regulating your insulin response, understanding the biological mechanism which spikes your fasting insulin, right? That is what is required. So this is where what we do, right? So essentially our focus is, so we don't, so one more point here, right? So in terms of CGM, when you are avoiding a food because it is high in fructose or glucose, right? So you are not seeing that food has many other molecular ingredients like vitamins, minerals, and a lot of these beneficial things and antioxidants, which you are dividing your body off. So you are creating a lot of nutrition deficiencies as well, right? And then you will go to take supplements, and supplements may backfire because it is already preloaded with a lot of, chemicals and metals and a lot of these things, right? So essentially, these are basic gaps in the system, in the entire mechanism of, CGM machines, what we look at, right? Right. So when we talk of molecules, so essentially one more thing, I have been repeating this again and again. I'll again tell this that, food, let us think food beyond protein, carbs, and fats, right? Obviously, it has to be considered because it's a macronutrient, but you have to also consider, 25,000 plus molecules in various foods, right? So when you are eating certain meals, there are maybe, upwards of, 500,000, 2,000, 3,000 molecules hitting your microbiome. Then, they're doing more than 10, 15,000 functions, right? So then that is determining whether a food is going to spike your insulin or not, right? So you see there's a huge data sets being deployed, right?
Right.
2000 molecules and digestive enzymes and so much microbial functions, you know. So, so, you know, so that's what we have developed a model. Now, what we do in terms of precision nutrition, we obviously look at 26 biological pathways, which covers all biological functions, right? Right from
Right.
metabolic to your digestive, to your autoimmunity, to impacting your skin, you know, your mental health, brain health, you know, your hormonal health, everything, right? So
Right.
now we have built an which we are going to come with any sign-ups post from 1st September onwards, will be having this inbuilt, right?
Hmm.
So we
Right.
have built an you know, postprandial, what we say is postprandial is after you consume your you know, glucose and other stuff, right?
Right.
Glycemic response prediction model, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we are going to see various molecules, like we are going to see a tryptophan. Again, tryptophan metabolized by the microbiome can
Hmm.
either produce, you know, indole propionic acid or acetic acid, which is beneficial, which regulates your insulin, or it can produce indoxyl sulfate, which can spike your insulin. Depends upon how your microbiome is interacting with tryptophan. Tryptophan. Similarly, tyrosine can lead to tryptamine production or pyrrhicosol, which can again impact your insulin sensitivity, right?
Yeah.
Fucose is, a lot of people don't know. So fucose is a sugar molecule found on the gut lining, right? So
Yeah.
when we are on a calorie deficit restrictive diet or high protein diet, right? A lot of
Hmm.
these bugs inside our gut, they are hungry, so they go to the gut lining and start eating fucose, and it spikes your
Yeah.
insulin levels, right? So doesn't mean if you are having a low calorie deficit diet, it is not going to spike your blood sugar. Fructose, we know it's found in foods and fruits. Obviously, we should eat fruits, but in whole form, in various, you know, because fruits are also little with a lot of fiber. But
Right.
juices, packed juices, you know, uh,
Hmm.
these what we call is these syrups, you know, all these which has laden with all this fructose, which spikes your uric acid again, spikes
Yeah.
your. We look at fructose, we look at glucose, we look at oxalate in combination with uric acid and lipopolysaccharides, right? Purines, we look at resistant starch through bitrate production. We discussed in our previous last week, we discussed on the bitrate video discussion that about resistant starch. Then, you know, inulin is again a
Hmm.
sort of dietary fiber which regulates our blood sugar level. Histidine, again, a lot of people, histidine is an amino acid, but interaction between the certain microbes and histidine can actually lead to a particular production of a particular metabolite,
Hmm.
enzyl propionate, which actually can spike your insulin at a molecular level, right?
Correct.
Then again, bile acids. So there are certain these molecules we look at in terms of, you know, predicting whether a food is going to spike your insulin or not, right?
Hmm.
So again, you can actually regulate your insulin response by understanding whether a food is going to spike my insulin or not even before you consume it, right? So
Correct.
that's the model we have built, you know, in-house, which is going to be available free of cost. It would be a part of our up the gut oral microbiome or vaginal microbiome Vagico, any product you sign up, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'll be part of it, and you'll actually learn whether your food is going to spike your insulin or not, right? So,
Yeah.
this is the basics which I wanted to share.
Yeah, so this is excellent, rather than thinking about what people are claiming or claiming wrong things in the market. Here, at Gene Fertiletics, we are talking at molecular level. We are trying to look at amino acid level and how the whole all the 26 pathways
Mm,
actually control diabetes, control insulin spike, and good things which you have shared, like using CGM machine or HB1AC level is probably the last stage. It's better if you look at the molecular level, if you look at the microbiome, if you look at the pathways and how better we can control pathways and have precise nutrition and
mm,
control things much before than real diabetes happens. So
mm,
I'm sure this is going to be very useful, Sushant,
mm.
for the audience. Yeah.
Yeah. One more point I want to add is, so people who don't have pre-diabetes or diabetes, right? and whose HbA1c is regular, right? So it doesn't
Correct.
mean they won't have, because uh, there is no investigation available in the market right now which can regulate or understand your insulin spike at a molecular level. Right?
Level. Correct.
So we
Correct.
are going to give you a molecular risk which has not been reflected in your CGMs or
Yeah.
in your HbA1c tests, right?
Yes.
So
True.
you can actually regulate your insulin spike, so you will never have diabetes,
Mm.
right? So it's
So I
this
wish
is
more and more families, more and more youngsters, should listen to this, and they can plan things way better than reacting later on. So that would be my advice. I wish it goes to most of the guys who can act upon it well in time.
yeah. So I'll just add one more thing here. So another thing, you have to see a mathematics around it.
Hmm.
So our body has around maybe more than 2,000 enzymes, right?
Correct.
We
Correct.
have 40 trillion microbes. We have 40 trillion microbes coding for 2 to 20 million genes, right?
Hmm.
Then 25,000 plus food molecule, food substrates, right? So
Right.
you see the kind of data mining happening or biological machinery going on, churning a lot of data inside our body, right?
Correct. Correct.
So, so if anyone is telling you, oh, I'm going to see your CGM and give you some diets, or
Hmm.
going to look at HbA1c and give you some diets, no individual can tell you what you should eat, what you should not, what you should avoid, what you should minimize, what you should moderate, right?
Yeah.
Because there is a huge data points going on, right?
Correct.
Just by looking at HbA1c, no one can tell you. And these all diets work in isolation. And that's why in
Correct.
our model, when we come out your nutrition tableau, right, which is very, very unique for your microbiome, right?
Right.
We don't have any human involvement. We
Hmm.
don't have any nutritionist, any biotechnologist, any doctor, any coach here, right? It
Right.
is all data driven. It is all machine learning models we have built in house, right?
Right.
Which actually churns a lot of data and arrived at various pathways and your recommendations. And
Correct.
that's why it is really, really precise for every individual,
Every individual. True.
right?
Very true. Very true. So I think this is going to be very useful, and uh, we will keep talking about it, so that more and more people can avail services from Gene Fertiletics. And even if they do not avail, at least they understand the science which we are talking about. And in some way, it can really help them, to have a better and healthy life and get rid of chronic diseases,
Yeah.
plan their life that way. So,
Yeah. So from another angle, I would just want to, before we close, I wanted to say that, you know,
yeah.
um, I've seen that I was speaking to a couple of prospective customers and couple of days back, and seen there are a lot of microbiome companies now coming up in India, right? And it's a good thing, right? We're seeing a lot of growth in and belief in microbiome, right?
Right.
But the fact is, the focus has to be on the function of the microbiome, not on the existence or the diversity. So most of the companies in India, I'm talking of India right now, so most of the companies in India focus on the existence and the alpha beta diversity of the microbiome, which doesn't tell anything, right? So which only tells potential to develop a disease, it doesn't tell whether that microbe is actually doing bad thing or good thing, right? So that's why the focus has to be on the function, and that's what we do. We focus on the functions and the how the interaction between food and the microbiome changes the microbial genes expression, and it turns changes the human genes expression, right? And how these molecules being released actually, you know, triggers, and the metabolite released by the microbiome triggers, inflammasome to release certain pro-inflammatory markers, which makes your immune system overactive, and that these pro-inflammatory molecules actually uh, tells something bad is going on, and we don't have anything to decode of these protein molecules, and actually we end up wait for symptoms to arise, and then we focus on suppressing symptoms, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's what we do. We have built a model where we are providing with the nutrition interventions. We are now building a model where we can actually uh, determine the molecular pre-symptomatic molecular signatures, right?
Yeah.
uh, to understand whether you're moving towards a rare disease, or if you're moving when you're going to develop a disease, so that we can actually suppress that molecule by nutrition and actually reverse it. So you will not develop a disease in fact. So
Excellent.
that's the whole thing behind it, right? So
Excellent. I'm sure, we will keep talking about this and people will keep benefiting, and hundreds of people, I think, have been already given service by Gene Fertiletics, and look forward to such more sessions.
Yeah, and just to end up, wishing everyone a happy Independence Day for tomorrow, right? And we are opening up our oral microbiome pre-orders now from tomorrow onwards, right?
Wonderful.
So anyone who's interested either in oral or combining oral with gut, please go to our website and you can actually pre-book your kits, right? And I'll be sharing details tomorrow on my social media, on our social media accounts with all these details tomorrow.
Wonderful. Look forward. And thank you very much. Happy
Thank you, sir.
Independence Day, Prashant.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir. Same to you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.